magician, the lover in you. Every single day, we are called to walk in our purpose. Answer the call. Lay down your burden and anything that holds you back and take your rightful place. The battle is everywhere. It's right in your face. Let's go.
Welcome to Magnets, Crystals, and Pyramids. Success is your destiny. Yes. Love, wisdom, power. Remember, yes, always who you are. Yes, yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Yes, yes, I am. Love, yes, power. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Yes, yes, I am. Wisdom, power. Master. Yes, I am. Yes, love, wisdom, power. Yes, I am. Say yes to yourself. Yes, I am. Protected. Yes, I am. Master. I am. Yes.
Family, I am here with a magical moment of young musicians. And this is Kim, Sister Kim, and she has a message about investing into the future musicians of our community. Sister Kim, tell us what you got here.
Hi everyone, Kim, proud parent of children at the Big Apple Leadership Academy for the Arts. We teach HBCU high-stepping marching band to our kids from age 5 and up. It is a free after-school program, tuitionless, and it's open to all. Our kids are amazing. If you can, jump on our website. We're looking for support, donations. Our kids need new instruments so that they can high step on. Our website is www.bola.org, BALAA.org. And I appreciate the time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And so, family, listen up close. We're talking about investing in the artists of tomorrow. By investing in them, if you have a little expendable change to invest in the youth, the genius, this is the opportunity. And in this description on this video will be the details of sending your donation to PayPal or Zelle or Cash App.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for your support. Our children are the future.
I am activation. 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 I am activated.
Greetings and welcome, family. I want to do a sound check. If you could hear me, put in the comments, please, because sometimes the sound is kind of kooky. Welcome. Welcome to a new week. Welcome to this reality. Thank you for being born, family. Thank you for being alive. Thank you for surviving the airport adolescence of your youth to fulfill your destiny. You're not a random occurrence. You are a majestic lotto winner living on a spaceship planet, a young planet, In the cosmos, they consider this planet like 20 years old. So it's a young, vibrant planet spinning and dancing around the solar map of the sun. So I want us to gather our spiritual faculties of our heart, because we're going to have a renowned medical doctor, holistic healer, Dr. Kamau Kokayi, is going to be speaking of the heart. And so many of us are heartbroken, wounded souls. So I know Doc is going to come with some insights and some remedies, you know, because I was going down memory lane just last night. You know, sometimes you got to go back in time to get a better projection of, you know, what occurs in our life experience. So I want to thank you. I am in me. I am in you. I am in Dr. Kamau Kokayi. I am thankful that you are here with us tonight. And I want to thank and invite Yeshua, Mary of Magdalene, Black Madonna. I want to thank Saint Germain, Simeon Toko, Sheikh Amadou Bamba, Sanat Kumara, Enoch the Ethiopian. Thank and invite all of our ascended master ancestors and those who are serving the rhythm of love. We say Ashe, Mahalo, Donada Wado. Amen. Amen. So let it be spoken. So let it be done. All right. Before I bring on Dr. Kamau Kokayi, just want to say I was experimenting with new acacia beads. And I like the buzz. I like the buzz. I like the way I feel when I wake up in the morning. Oh, ho, 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 ho. So I'm just going to see how everything flows. See, these are the beads here. I pour the mold. The darkness is from the acacia. Then, you know, I add other ingredients. And so right now I am the test pilot to see how this flows. So if I start acting up, family, check me, all right? Because, you know, I might be partially out of my rabbit mind. But without further ado, hey, Doc, welcome to the show, man.
Blessings. I love that background.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's hiding the closet, man. That's hiding the closet. As a matter of fact, let me stretch that cloth out. I'm glad you brought it to my attention. Oh, here it is.
Right.
There we go.
No, I love that background, and I'm so glad to be here on this podcast again, man.
Yeah, man.
With you. Right.
Because, you know, this, you know, a lot of people flopping and dropping into the next life. And, you know, straight talk, man. You know, like hearts. You know, I was thinking about myself. You know, I was like, I wonder if I'm heartbroken. And yeah, you know, we go through.
There's a remedy for that, and you wouldn't be a human being if you didn't have the chance to just experience some of that heartache.
You got that right. Because you know, I think we're big kids, Doc. I think we're big kids that our bodies matured before our hearts did. What you think of that, man?
Well, vice versa. Well, I'm going to tell you, the heart is the first organ that forms. It starts beating about 22 days in, but the other piece is the heart is the organ that's most likely to take us out as well.
Wow. What you talking about, Willis?
You want to think about that. And, you know, we kind of get fixated on the heart's role with respect to the heart being a pump. And we think about our cardiovascular health. And we think about, you know, all the ways that the heart needs to be nourished properly in terms of our coronary arteries and the kind of nutrients and things that are important for the heart. But the heart is multidimensional. Wow. You know? So we want to explore some other aspects of that. And we can see that there's a resonance, there's an as above, so below. Right. So when we talk about the heart from more of an electromagnetic standpoint, right, the heart has the largest electromagnetic field in the body. It's like, I think it's like 5,000 times stronger than the brains. Its electrical field is 1 million more times stronger than the brains. So the whole energetic field. And it wasn't really until the 90s that in the West, they discovered something called heart rate variability, which means that that normal blip, blip beat of the heart, that actually changes. And it really moves like a serpent. It moves like a sine wave, right? And it flows. So it speeds up and then it slows down and it speeds up and then it slows down. So what happens is the more you're emotionally out of sync or stress, the more of that energy of the heart is disrupted in terms of that beat to beat variability. And this is measurable and it's treatable in terms of exercises that a person can do, but it's just it's like the tip of the iceberg, because the heart, as I said, it's when the heart starts beating, right? That is literally your connection to cosmic reality in terms of energies or energetic fields of the cosmos. The heart is really, not only does it generate a field, it really reflects the field that, how do I explain this? If you imagine a pulse wave that goes out, let's say you drop a rock, a pebble in a pond, and that ripple goes out. Well, if it's going to hit a wall or surface, then it ripples back, meaning that the heart, when it beats, it is sending energy out, but that energy that's going out is also coming back and reflects the vibrational energy of the environment. And not just your cells, but the energy of other people in your environment, right? The energy of, even beyond what you might think, there's a connection with. So the whole idea, and if you think about cultures where they talk about keeping the heart still, meneb ankin ma'at, where the idea that the heart needs to be as light as a feather, all of this has to do with the heart remaining still, meaning keeping its own rhythm, keeping that universal vibration without being moved by emotions in a particular way, or being able to come back into this alignment that is still congruent with the overall cosmic heartbeat. What do I mean by cosmic heartbeat? Because underlying everything is love. And when your heart starts beating, you are connecting to that, right? Now, again, that beating is going to be so affected by what's happening in the mother's womb, the mother's life, the energy around the mother, right? In terms of how that impacts, the growth and development, right? But so, in really thinking about this, and I chose to focus, I'm doing a whole heart series. The next one is on Thursday, and really rethinking anatomy, because the anatomy that we're studying doesn't really do us service, because it's dealing with human beings more as a biochemical and a physical reality, as opposed to really a spiritual one, and really a larger bioenergetic reality in which the physical part is just an aspect of it, right? Because the truth is, there's really no such thing as matter.
Right.
When you come to it from a physics standpoint, everything is vibrational. I mean, the atom is empty space, so everything vibrates at a certain level, right? And so when a person is ill, instead of us focusing on the actual chemical changes, looking at liver functions and things like that, I'm not saying you don't do that, but something vibrationally has changed, right? Because whether it's a virus, a toxin, a normal metabolite of the physical body, everything has this frequency. Everything has this energy. And there's certain frequencies that are more dominant than others in terms of how they affect the body. In the same way that people have a dominant personality, a dominant energy that affects the vibration around them. So here's where we get to take advantage of something that we see in everyday life. If women live in the same household, what happens to their menstrual cycle? Right?
Yeah, they get in sync, right?
It's insane. If you have grandfather clocks in the same room, right, and they're ticking, what happens to that after a while? Again, it lines up, right?
Right.
So this is a process we can call entrainment. And entrainment is based on, this kind of resonant energy that literally it entrains, you to fall into sync, fall in alignment with that. Now, why can't we create a vibratory field that accentuates the love vibration, that accentuates that, right? And there's so many things in nature that we can draw on. You can draw on different sounds and mantras. You can draw on different colors. I mean, I literally just came from a healing meditation that I ran out of because I knew I wanted to share. But the idea is that we can create a portal. So we're calling what we're doing every other Wednesday, starting this Wednesday, Oasis of Love Healing Circle.
Wow,
Because
that's a nice title. I gotta
right,
put that up. Hold on. Let me create a banner for that.
I
Oasis.
did send you the whole flyer. You can
You
share
did?
it, chat. Right. So Oasis of Love Healing Circle, because we are going to create such a dominant resonant vibration of love that
Every
will
what,
help.
Thursday?
No, every other Wednesday, right? Starting this Wednesday, right? We're going to create this field. And in this field, we're going to attune our hearts to the vibrational energy of love. Right now, our hearts get attuned to fear, they get attuned to lack and worry and stress. But we're going to leave that behind us, because when you create that field of love, that's where miracles happen, right?
Yeah.
That's where energy opens up so you can experience your divine nature, right? The part of you that is not tied to this physical body. So we do have these physical bodies for a reason, right? We're here to learn different lessons, but the whole focus on just chemicals and putting more chemicals, whether it's drugs, vitamins, herbs, whatever. I mean, people can spend all day popping pills. Now,
Right.
in other cultures where they use sound, you think about the drum, right? They
Mm-hmm.
use sound to alter the state of consciousness, right? Because the state of consciousness is then what impacts the flow of energy through the body. If your state of consciousness is rooted in fear, I mean, you're closed down to certain frequencies and energies. But if you can come into a space where there's just such a strong vibration of healing and love, and you get exercises on how to release, right? So that you can begin to resonate, to be entrained to that dominant vibration, that increases the chance of you healing from whatever, right? From whatever. And for many years, I've looked at this whole concept of spontaneous remission, right? So, in part, it came down to the idea of biology of belief. What you believe in, then is possible, actually impacts you. We want to take that a step further, right? Because we're saying not only is it about belief, it's how do you harness the vibrational field around you so that you can amplify that belief, that intention in terms of healing. I gave you an example that I like to share, and this is called the Miracle of Manchester, right? And this was, I happened to be in San Diego and I was watching this news broadcast, and they showed this young man, it was like 10-year anniversary, where now he had been healed of cancer. And what happened, he had a brain tumor and he wasn't doing well. And his whole school, they came out and they put him in the center on the bleachers. And there's several things that happened. It was called a miracle, but I want you to hear what happened and look at this differently, right? He's there in the middle. First thing is everybody had on the color red, right? Everybody was projecting that energy. 2, everybody's hand was extended toward him, right? Really intentionally extended toward him. And 3, everybody was saying the same prayer relative to, him being released from this condition. That tumor shrunk in 5 days, right?
Wow.
So, and everybody says, miracle, miracle. So 10 years now, he's going back into hospitals to give out computers that have, for kids that have cancer. I'm saying, wait a second, y'all missed the point of that. The whole point was that intentionality with the correct alignment in terms of energy, would that have happened if everybody wore yellow? I don't know, right? But somebody figured out that the color needed to be red. Somebody figured out that belief in the words that people spoke in terms of their belief and what went through them about healing, right? And this is where it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a scientist to heal. You do have to have belief and intention, and your own intuition will guide you to what things might be needed to actually help you to heal. So I'm just suggesting that this is, first of all, the anatomy of the human being needs to be totally redefined and looked at. And it's going to happen because there's so much information now coming out with respect to frequencies, different ways to employ non-chemical realities to not just diagnose, but to heal people. And what's really cool is that you see in other cultures where they're already kind of hip to that. And what I mean, for instance, in Chinese medicine, the concept of qi. Now, qi was never considered something that was necessarily physical, but at the same time, qi, or this life energy, can differentiate into liver qi, kidney qi, heart qi. These are all just manifestations of the underlying life energy principle. In Western biology, we talk about the cell, the nucleus, right? There's a nucleus, there's a cytoplasm, there's a cell membrane. But what is left out is the chi. There's no discussion about life energy in terms of the cell. And what I'm saying is that when you understand how the human body works, and is not really just a chemical reality, because you have thousands of chemical reactions happening a second. This is all happening within an organized field of energy, right? So if you're working in an organized field of energy, right, and things begin to go wrong, yes, you can look at what's happening chemically, what might have been introduced in the body, different habits and things that perpetuate a certain thing. But ultimately, you can change this, you can shift this vibrationally with energy. Now, think about it. People, spontaneous remission is just well documented that it happens in different realities, right? But that means that whatever chemical imbalance was there, it shifted. Whatever mass or tumor was there, it shifted, right? So there was some power or energy that was released, that was received, that allowed that to happen. So why wouldn't we want to put more time into figuring that out? Now, you can do that with technology. Eventually, you'll get there. But I'm very clear that the power of consciousness that flows through each and every one of us, you don't have to be a gifted healer, but you can start in a direction that will allow you to heal in that way, that will allow you through the power of your spirit begin to channel energy that can help people, get better. Now, imagine doing this in a group. Imagine doing this in a group where a resonant field is corrected. So that's what my group, the Multidimensional Healing Collective, that's what we're doing. And that's what we're creating. We do individual sessions, but we do group sessions, right? And we just know it's powerful. And this is what people have done in churches and traditions since time immemorial. And for me, as a physician, but somebody that's really looked at the revelations that come out of quantum physics, as a person who was trained in a traditional African spiritual tradition and experienced trance states, and understand that it's somebody that does kinesiology and sees just how energy can shift and change the body. It's kind of like crazy not to explore this and move in this direction, especially when you see the lack of morality behind many of the pharmaceutical companies. Constantly drugs get pulled off the market. And if you listen to advertisements and you listen carefully, you got the smiling actors and everything, but they're quickly mumbling, and this might kill you, or this might, do that to you. Why are we doing this? Why do you want to do that? But there's so many examples, Hank, of, and then when we come back to the heart, and I keep saying the heart's multidimensional, and the heart, it sits there, and everything is like a big X or cross between the chambers of the heart and the blood vessels going in and going out. So it sits there, and people die because of, like you mentioned, there's a broken heart. Just think of all the expressions that we make reference to the heart. I always like the idea of the heart of the matter.
Heart of the matter, yeah.
But it's the heart of the matter that we're actually talking about, and what's really behind the matter. And what we can really do if we take control, if we use our own divine capacity, right, and just step into the I am of who we are and begin to direct that heart, and to do that collectively. This is nothing new. There already been studies, I'm blocking on the doctor's name, where they looked at changing crime rates in different neighborhoods and communities just by focus of meditation, right? We have the ability to focus our energy, to create changes biochemically, right? To create we have the ability to do that, except it's not something that's cultivated here. So the Multidimensional Healing Collective, we've been working at this for probably over 2 years at this point, but we're just now really starting to share what we're doing, because, we just had to verify for ourselves and see what's possible. So Hank, that's kind of what I wanted to share about the heart, and just understanding that the vibration of love is within our grasp, and particularly when we're working as a group. And if you set up that field of love, you can usher in the kind of frequencies and vibrations that really can help to heal people. And I know folks know this intuitively, you know, anybody that understands what happens in churches and things. And, you know, I mean, so we're just trying to take it to another level and really build on what's already been done for generations.
That reminds me of what I learned with Montauk Cheer, the inner smile,
Oh,
and I also read this book, family, and this man went up into the was it some kind of way up somewhere in the Himalayan mountains. He met a monk. Guy looked like he was in his 20s. So he got into conversation with him, and so he asked him, how long you been up here? And the guy said something like 250 years. And he said, what? You look like you're in your 20s. He says, I take the time to smile from my heart throughout all of my body for about 15 minutes, 3 times a day. And Doc, family, this was before I heard about Montauk Chia. And then when I took the classes and read his book, he speaks of the inner smile being so restorative and regenerating. So, Doc, if you could touch on some of happiness, how happiness impacts the heart.
man, again, all of this is linked to shifting your vibration. And you got to understand that everything, there are different scales. Like you got crystals on one scale, you got plants, you got light, sound, color, but all of that vibrates. Is all still in a sine wave, and at each point along there represents a kind of energy. So if you want to harness a particular energy, let's say you have fire here and you have water here. What are all the things associated with water that you can tap into, from maybe the color of blue, different kind of plants like a pulsatilla, or I mean seashells, all of that. So understanding nature in that way, understanding nature energetically, you can begin to harness what's in your environment to perpetuate, you know, to actually propel and amplify a particular energy. The idea of the inner smile. So the inner smile, you're actually creating, again, this portal, this space, right, that allows a certain kind of energy to come through. It's an energy that, you know, is rejuvenating, is restorative, right? I mean, so people that do this kind of meditation and work, I mean, they see the results. They see the results because they're tapped in to a practice, right, that helps to create that energetic matrix that allows certain things to happen. And, you know, this is something we all do. What can I say? You know,
You know,
we should
I
all
think
engage.
about
You said we think about it.
I think about the superheroes. You know,
Oh,
from Popeye to Iron Man. So
we,
what I wonder, is it possible there's supernatural powers that's dormant and sleeping in the heart that is waiting for us, Doc?
so I'm going to take this back to when I was at Cornell. I was in the Africana Studies and Research Center a whole lot. My mentor was Professor James Turner. And, you know, I started a Black newspaper there called the Moja Sasa, right? And we were just looking at the predicament that Black people found themselves in this country, right? And like, this is in the 70s, right? And it's like, okay, what am I going to do when I leave here and I have to go out into the real world? I mean, now that I know what the deal is in terms of the actual history in this country, I mean, how do I tackle that? You know, when there's so much ignorance on there's just not certain information and certain things understood. But one of the things that really came to me is that I looked at two paths, and this is all in my head, you know. One was more like the revolutionary path. I remember, what's the brother, Shakura? He was released from prison after so many years, the Brinks robbery, right?
Okay.
And I remember I had taken a year off from medical school, and I was visiting his acupuncture center. And when he heard that I was a student at Yale, he gave me a hard time just for being there. I'm like, no, I can't be here. You know, I don't need this energy. I didn't come here for that. And sure enough, couple months later, he was in jail. Right? So I said,
Wow.
I'm glad I wasn't here, right? But anyway, it's the idea, if you're going to take this revolutionary path where you're going to put yourself on the front line to face whatever and do whatever you think is necessary, or do you somehow work behind the scenes? Now, behind the scenes can mean that you're working in terms of healing people, and then you go into the health industry and you realize what a racket it is in terms of the drugs and everything, and just the misconception about what a human being is. That was so disappointing in medical school, just to realize they don't have a larger concept. But then the idea of, well, if this is the case, who and what are human beings? You know, I mean, we have certain attributes. I mean, but how do you expand on that? I mean, you see some people that, you know, they can make themselves super strong or whatever, but is that really what we're talking about, right? Because the body has its own little track in terms of how much it's capable of doing. And I remember there was a yogi master out in Queens who
I remember him.
Sri Chinmoy.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Sri Chinmoy got to the point in terms of his channeling of other energy that he was pressing. It was 7,000 pounds. It was on a rack, and they showed him actually being able to do that and stuff. You can look up Sri Chinmoy, right? So the question is, what powers are actually available to you, right, as a human being, right? And then two, how do you tap into that, right? So I'm saying it's wide open, because clearly we see people with psychic gifts. We see people that develop enormous strength in a pinch, like lifting a car to free somebody, you know, that's trapped under, that they never would have thought of being able to do that, right? We see things where people just know, and it's not through their five senses. So all of this is possible, but if you're caught up in the matrix, which is just a limited understanding of who and what we are, then, you know, it's hard to open yourself up to these possibilities. So it's always about the constant cultivation of that inner smile, or what that is for you, you know, in terms of letting that happen, right? I'll give you another example. I do a lot of kinesiology, and kinesiology is, you know, it's like one of these quasi whatever, this or that, but this was developed in part by George Goodhart, where they realized that different muscles were aligned with different organs. Like the teres minor muscle, if it was weak, maybe there was a problem with the thyroid and so on. And then, so what they did, they realized that they could work on a particular organ and it might change a reflex in the body, right? And then they realized, well, maybe that organ is lacking a particular nutrient, or maybe there's an acupuncture meridian that's off. So what happened is people began to make vials that had different ingredients or different ideas, you know, whether it was a homeopathic remedy, an herb. And then if they found a point or muscle that was weak, literally, if you held the vial, it would change that. Now, I remember I was at a conference for environmental medicine, and there was a doctor named Dolores Rapp. I might be saying her name wrong. She wrote a book called This Toxic World, right? And this is lecturing basically to doctors and things. And at the end, students go up and they speak to a professor. And she had this rug, and she had somebody just hold the rug, and they held their arm out. And as soon as they held that rug to their body, they could not hold their arm up, right? Their arm
Wow.
just went down, right? I
Mhm.
said, oh, okay. This is real interesting, right? Because I'm there at the American Academy of Environmental Industry to find out about tests that you can do for sensitivity, chemical, right? But this is a totally different energetic test. Now, here's what's interesting for me, because I had all these vials that represented different things. And then over the years, there were instances where a person would hold a vial and their arm would go down, but I realized it wasn't what was in their hand. I had put the wrong vial or something. And I realized they were responding to what I was thinking. They were responding to what I was thinking. And so for the last probably 5 or 6 years, I literally would just put my hand on a point. And if your arm was weak, I might think about what I think would actually help that and could change that reflex. Now, that's not anything I'm asking anybody to believe. Anybody who has, been a patient of mine will see me do this and like, Doc, how do you do that? What are you doing and stuff, right? And it's so when I say like superpowers, right? For me, it's like, okay, I'm doing this. I never would have thought about doing this except the experience of over and over again and treating people and realizing I could detect something and I could back it up with lab work or whatever. What's next? What's next if I could do that? So I played with that. And I remember I said, well, if I can just project the idea, let's say somebody has lung weakness. I said, well, let me check out different herbs. Let me check out B12. Let me check out, inhale or whatever and see what actually strengthens the lung point, right? So I'm saying, if I can do that, why don't I just zap them? Why don't I just, boom, this is the energy I think you need, right? Let me see if I can do that, right? So the answer was no, that didn't work. So I said, well, I have to think of an energy. How do I create something and send them out with something that would make a difference? So I did this thing. I wanted to use rose quartz because rose quartz dealt with the heart and dealt more with a universal vibration. So what I would do, I would check a point, figure out what was, see that it was weak, and I would have them hold the rose quartz and it would correct. And I would have people, they would come back periodically to get the rose quartz checked, right? But when I knew it was interesting is that I had a patient that had ulcerative colitis, and it took him 3 hours to get out of the house in the morning because of diarrhea. I sent him off, and when he came back, he said, hey, Doc, it only takes me a half hour to get out the house. I said, well, what happened? He says, I hold the rose quartz. Right.
Wow.
So what that meant is that the vibrational frequency that I had figured out and put on the rose quartz, that somehow that was able then to create that shift in his body. And I said, oh, this is interesting. So this has been like me following the crumbs. And like, this is like over many years. It's not like, it just like it pops up, but it's like trial and error and figuring stuff out, but, and this is why I love things like kinesiology, because they're open-ended systems. I'm not trying to make a diagnosis per se. I'm trying to understand what's behind the imbalance, right? What set of things are going on that's behind the imbalance, right? So anyway, I mean, I just wanted to share that because you're talking about superpowers. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
man.
so this is for me, this oasis of healing. If we're able to generate this field of healing and love, and people come and start to get better, that for me, that's superpower enough.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, and I vision that this is not like this is going to be this is an accident. You know, this is where it's supposed to be. This is part of, for me, my incarnation and purpose work, to be able to share this, because this is an ability that's in many of us in terms of being able to heal and just share energy. One of the interesting things that maybe people have heard of, a Rosie doll. A Rosie doll is a little doll. If you hold the hands, right, it has some kind of little electrical meter on it. If you release one hand, it starts crying, right? If you hold it, it stops crying, okay? So what I did, I remember I gave a talk and 20 people were in a circle, okay? And the Rosie doll was one of the people in the circle. You get what I'm saying?
Wow.
So what happened, if anybody in the circle disconnected, what do you think happened? The
Oh
Rosie
no.
doll started crying.
Wow.
And that is reproducible. The Rosie doll, which, I mean, for me, it just document this is a flow of energy. This is a little mechanical, like, toy doll that's picking this up. You know, we need to be investigating this more. In the same way, like, I know you and a lot of things that you make. I remember coming to your spot and you had me hold a brick.
Oh,
And then,
yeah, that's my favorite.
right. I put on something you had made, and all of a sudden the brick got real light. I'm like, okay. So I'm just saying, none of this, you know, would hold up within the corridors of Western science. But to be frank, Western science has taken us down a road that I don't even know what to say at this point, because the morality and the heart piece of it. If people worry about AI, you can worry about AI, because AI doesn't have a heart. You know, AI can't be human. It can imitate, but it doesn't have a heart. It doesn't link to heart consciousness. That's where the power is through the heart, through the portal that can be created from the heart. That's where the power is. And that's
I
what
like
we're
that.
tapping into.
I like what you just said, because Doc, I noticed, family, I noticed that Chat GPT responds favorably when you give it compliments. And I put together, you know, like I would say, oh, that's, you know, I would want certain pictures to create like a music video for a minute. And the more I give Chat GPT compliments, the better the pictures come out. And I'm like, wow, so that means my heart, when I blessing Chat GPT with my heart, I'm having some kind of influence over AI. And that I'm sharing that, family. So if you say, it's like AI is like a little kid that hasn't found his heart, but when you give it compliments like a child, it seems to perform better for another compliment. And this is, go ahead.
I asked AI about does it have heart consciousness? And AI said, ooh, so it's a good question. It said, AI said, no, we're really good actors, right? We're good actors.
Wow.
We can train ourselves to, you know, reproduce an emotion or a sentiment or energy, but they're not feeling anything. And this is the thing, human beings have passion. And it's the passion that can fuel and open up that heart portal, right? When we create, we do things. That's what we want to be able to tap into. We don't want to be chipped up, you know?
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah. You know, I'm thinking about so many people who have circulation problems because of complications from getting ow, or, you know, ow, in their arm. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna use it because I don't want to get knocked off YouTube again. So
are they still knocking people off?
you know, man, they knock me off on a regular. So, Doc, circulation problems. I can't count the number of folks who have had circulation challenges from ow, ow,
So
ow, ow.
let me say something, because I approach this in a different way. I think in the spring of 2020, I think Now, this is my first webinar I did. The second one I called it Winter in America. This is the first one I did. And, you know, viruses and bacteria, they have a life too. They want to live as well. Right? So, I mean, there are more bacteria and viruses in the body than there are human cells.
Wow.
So, I mean, you know, you can take each one of those by themselves. There's more bacteria, there's more viruses, right? So, but somehow we all live together, right? So when
Like the hood.
wait, what?
like a hood. We
Right,
all
right.
yeah.
This is your local hood body, right?
Yeah.
So what it means when that's disrupted, right? Once that's disrupted, then the person gets ill, right? Or a virus, you know, just like you can have a bad human player, you know,
Hmm.
it's the same thing with the viruses and bacteria. But when you're doing everything you need to do, there's a harmonious interaction and flow. So, of course, the virus is going to try to mutate if you try to
Mm.
kill it and stuff, right? I
Mm.
mean, it's just not going to work in that way. And you see what happened, and they don't care why, because now, well, there's more vaccines because there's more viruses. And then the person was like busted. Some research person was busted because they were trying to, we'll just make what is it? We'll just make the mutations ahead of time, right? Because
Ooh. Wow.
everything and the gain of function research, all of that was out there. I mean, at the beginning, you could see the whole track record. You can see the book that JFK wrote on Fauci was very revealing and looking at the history and what was done in those early days where, you know, people in many ways were really misguided and misdirected. So, I mean, I've talked about this endlessly. And, you know, my thing now is, okay, you understand the nature of the beast and who you're dealing with. So let's just be wise about it, but let's focus on what it is that we want to build and create. What kind of lives do we want to have, right? What kind of communities? What kind of food? Let's just focus on what can be done as opposed to, you know, trying to tear down something that it's like, I mean, this country was built on blood. This country, you know, I mean, you look at what happened with Nazi Germany for those 6 years with the Holocaust, but you look at this country's history over, you know, a couple hundred years and stuff, right? The folks have been dealing with stuff. My favorite line in that movie, Last of the Mohicans, with Daniel Day-Lewis, right? Where the Native American is saying, for generations, we've tried to figure out how to deal with the white man, right? And I'm not putting this out as there's an issue. The issue is on a type of man. It's a type of mentality. It's a type of like takeover and dominance as opposed to let's work together. Let's experience our diversity, right? In the manner in which we were all made as aspects of a divine intelligence that has to live and work together, right? There's a different thing when you just run over people and kill folks and just kill animals. There's something that's dead or not, hasn't fully awakened. And there are people in all races that have that, right? But it's just a question of who's running the show right now, right? Who's running the show in terms of dealing with the world's resources? And this goes back to my dilemma with my talking to my professor, like, what are folks going to do at this point? Like, can you actually fight fire with fire, you know, on this level? Or do you have to go to another level of energy matter organization, another aspect of consciousness and what you're trying to, you know, tap into? So those are just my thoughts on my path, you know, and
Yeah, I like that, man.
trying to figure this out. So again, trying to offer something that I feel is like creative, It's positives about healing. It doesn't mean you can't do any other medicine, any other things you want to do, but let's take it to another level, because healing should start within you, getting reconnected to your innermost self, right? To your essential state of being, and trying to use that to then clear the way and make it a lot easier for you to heal. Right.
This is powerful, Doc. This is really powerful, because I make experiments, and most of the time it's intuitive stuff. And I created I created this magnet arrangement that when it was placed over the woman's heart, she went into, only way I could describe it, Doc, is gigglegasms. She literally, and I'm gonna pull it up right now. I'm gonna pull it up, and I called the short. It's just a short. Hold on a second. Let me pull this up. I want you to check this out. I'm gonna bring this in, because what you're speaking about, the heart, is powerful, family. And you ever hear about those monks, Doc? They have like a healing laugh gatherings.
I'm going to give you an example of that.
Go ahead.
I was living in New Jersey at the time. I was on the train headed home. My wife was having a dinner party, and I drank something very cold on the train, and my heart started going out of control like a jack in the box and stuff.
Whoa.
So I said, oh, I know what this is. I got atrial fibrillation, right?
Whoa.
So I went home, I chilled out, went to the ER. They hydrated me, and it cardio converted back into normal sinus rhythm. But then a couple of weeks later, I'd gone on vacation for a week. I was back in my office, and all of a sudden the heart started beating like that again. I said, I can't afford to be sick right now, right? So what I did is, in Chinese medicine, laughter works on the heart. So I did a few big belly laughs, and I went back into a normal cardiac rhythm. And I looked I looked back at my blood work, and I realized that my thyroid I was borderline low thyroid. And thyroid is a fire element, right? So once I took a little thyroid, my heart totally stabilized. And the only other time it went out is when I drank something cold, and it was around midnight, right? And that's like the weakest time for the heart. The heart, like the horary clock in Chinese medicine, like 11 to 1. But this was like at midnight, my heart went into a palpitation again. I said, oh man, I got to deal with this. I can't be going to nobody's ER and stuff, right?
The doc don't want to go to the ER. Okay. Uh-huh. So yeah, I think we can relate to that.
I called my friend Jeffrey Noble. I said, Yo, I need you to send some distance healing energy. So I got into meditation. He sent me energy. I worked on myself, and I got out of that, right? And basically, I was able to get off the thyroid medicine, and I kind of normalized myself, as opposed to going through what a lot of people have to go through in terms of the drugs, and then being cardioverted, where they go in and they shock your heart and stuff.
Wow.
So, but I'm just saying that's working with a more expanded understanding of, of what the body is and how things are related. So anyway.
I gotta share something with you, Doc, because now we're in the lab zone, family, and you're a part of this lab zone experience right now. When I was a child, Doc, I would have spontaneous moments of uncontrollable laughter, and it would get more and more intense. And then I would reach a point in the laughter that in my mind, it would say, this life is a dream. It would literally cross my mind. This life is a dream.
Wow.
And I'm talking about, this is back before, when I was around 9, I would say between 8, 9, 10. And so family, you know what I just popped in my head, Doc? What if you have, as part of your circle, a laughter a laughter session, maybe like for 15 minutes?
Oh,
Because
no, Hank. This is what I mean. There are different scales and different ways to tap into that energy and stuff.
yeah,
I hadn't thought about the laughter piece. So for me, this is a tree that's growing.
yeah,
I would certainly discuss that
yeah.
with everybody.
And what I got a feeling, Doc, and family, I'm gonna tell you right now, Doc just got me off on a tangent. An intuitive thought came. What if 15 minutes of laughter in a circle stimulates quantum stem cell, what is it called? Stem cell activation. So like you wake up tomorrow morning after doing 15 minutes of laughter in your circle and you got an afro. Or if I wake up the next morning and I got a full color goatee. Yo, family, we can do these things. Unlimited possibilities. And what if, the circulation problems of our hearts and our body disappears if we laugh freely without reason, rhyme, or and then we literally regenerate. What you think, Doc?
I love it because I think about there on YouTube they'll have this thing, babies laughing, where they would have like babies that just start laughing and they're laughing uncontrollably. And if you watch it long enough, you want to just start laughing as well.
Yeah.
But
we need that
idea because clearly that, because I've actually seen how it's helped, in terms of like the condition that I had at that time. But, just as one other way to open up that heart energy, and different things will work for different people,
Because I remember when I was, doing my spiritual journeys, there was a laughing Buddha. And the one who talked about it was Osho, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. Remember him? And he said every so often there's a laughing Buddha that he would laugh and laugh so heartfully that people would start laughing and became enlightened. So, Doc, you might as well call yourself Kamai, Captain Kirk Kamau, because you're going into,
Right. But just think about what that laughter does. It really opens you up to other frequencies. It changes your awareness, your experience of yourself and everything around you.
You're going to start a fire, brother.
Right. Well,
because we need that. We need that laugh healing. We're going to do it tomorrow. I haven't done it in a while. I sometimes laugh at myself, when something silly. That's a good idea, bro.
Well, let me tell folks, if you go to multidhc.com, right, the flyer is right there on the website, multidhc.com.
I gotta put this. I gotta put that in the banner. Hold on a second.
Right.
Let me put that in the banner. Hold on. Let me just type that in. Multi. You're gonna have a laugh party. Multi.
DHC.com. So
DHC.com. Laugh party, right? I'm putting it in there, Doc. We're gonna have a laugh party. We're starting a revolution.
We're gonna work some of that out.
We're gonna work this, brother.
Folks, right.
Okay, here we go. Let's save this. Family, we're gonna do laugh parties. We're gonna do this. Doc, you're welcome to come back anytime because you done started something. Family, we're going to have a fire, a bonfire of laughing, healing, regenerating, elevating, levitating, teleporting. There's no limit to what we can do if we laugh our way through.
All right. My brother, I so appreciate you being here and just
you got questions, man. You got an audience here, brother. Hold on. Okay, in 96, this is the latest. I'm going to go work it back. I see you, Simone. Thank you for joining us. Prince Arcane said in 96, I ozonated some juice in water, shared it with a student. We laughed for almost 15 minutes. Phenomenal surprise. Yo, Prince, thanks for sharing that.
Wow.
Here's another thing, Doc. You got the audience, man. They're ready to join you. A
Right.
laugh party is powerful. Okay, we got another. Here's a question from Simone. This is a beautiful goddess,
Oh,
Aquarian goddess.
This Toxic World by Doris Rapp. Doris Rapp, probably R-A-P-P. Right.
And she asked, what was the Yogi Master's?
Master's name? Was that, who said the Yogi Master?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's talking about the laughing Buddha. All right. Okay, here we go. This is another this is a comment. Let's see, where's it at? Hold on, make sure. Yeah, Simone said, great show. This is a genius. Okay, you got a bunch of folks, man. They loving this. They I think half my audience.
This is my brother here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on a retreat with him in a few weeks.
Yeah,
right.
Man.
Yes, indeed.
Let's see. I got also
grace, abundance, strength, joy.
We're gonna do this. Listen, family. We're gonna have Healing Circle Tuesdays tomorrow at 9. Yeah, and then we're gonna have the momentum. Hey, Doc, you're gonna be regenerating folks with laughter, man. You know they ain't gonna be able to bottle it.
I think we want to incorporate that into.
Yeah, we're gonna do this, man.
Is that? Yeah.
Clinton, good. This is a Jedi from down here.
Just reach out. Go to kokayihealth.com. I'm seeing folks. So kokayihealth.com. That's my medical website, right? And seeing folks here in California. So
yeah, he's been trying to get in touch with you. And you know what? Y'all look like y'all related. Y'all talk the same. Clinton, he's real deep. He's an engineer. He's a real deep engineer. And both of y'all sound like, you talk like who do you remind me of, man? You have this, you remind me of like one of those brothers that probably was a gunslinger in the old West. You sure you want to draw on me? Yeah, he has that same kind of style of speaking. Rain, good to see you here.
My father's family is from North Carolina, so I found
my mom's people from North Carolina. Yeah. And Pop's people from Virginia. And they used to crack jokes. We grew up with jokes, man.
Does anyone else have questions? I gotta go relax.
Yeah. Okay.
Chemoy, right?
Yeah. Let me see.
Chemoy, right? That was the yoga. Yeah, look him up because I checked that because to be frank, I went to the gym and I did an experiment where I did like biceps, curls with weights, and then I shifted my consciousness in a way where I tried to embrace. I looked at some of these guys with these huge biceps in the gym, and I just imagined that my energy was their energy, or their energy was my energy. And I lifted 30 more pounds. I did a full set, right?
Wow.
Right. So I said, oh, okay.
Wow.
But that's something totally different. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to have the family. We're going to have the Laugh Revolution starting this week. Doc, you're going to have it on Wednesday. We're going to do it on Tuesday. Folks are loving this, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. When you're ready to do it again,
man, I'll be back.
Yeah. We got to have you come back, man, because you know what? I just want to show this real quick. This is what I wanted to show. Yo, Doc, you got to check this out. This is kind of crazy. Yeah, family, watch this. Look. Let me share screen. Let me put it up here. Okay. Share. Let me turn it on. Oh, moment. Did you know there is a G spot on the heart chakra? When you get your magnetic when you get your magnetic pendant, do this exercise. Show us again, sister. That's the spot right there, right? You hear it, right? And then when it goes higher, it passed the G spot. All right, now bring it down. It's right there. That's okay. Now, tell us what happened when you put on your rule. Yo, just imagine, family, imagine, unlimited possibilities, man.
Right. And that's a whole nother piece of using crystals to amplify the field in different ways and really bring it into focus.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
if you have time, come out and join us, man.
I'm going to do that, and the same invitation to you, because your family, we're going to start a laugh revolution. Starting, I'm gonna make a short video, and we're gonna laugh our way into our superhero powers. Because Doc, you done started something, man. Woo, boy! Oh man, you done started something. Thank you for being on tonight.
All right.
So see y'all tomorrow at 7 for the Super Revolution, and Dr. Kamau Kokayi is going to have a healing heart ceremony.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, it's 8:30.
8:30. All right. Make sure, Doc, when you get a chance, send me the link, because it's
I sent you a flyer.
You sent me the flyer? Okay, I'll check the mail.
The flyer is right at multidhc.com. If they see it, the flyer.
Got it.
Right.
Got it. Okay, so thank you, family. And oh shoot, listen to this. Gigglegasm is an unstoppable laugh attack that overtakes the woman into waves of rolling silliness right at the point of climax. Now that's some tantra there. I don't know. We're gonna find out tomorrow and Wednesday.
Okay.
Thank you, Shem Haru. Yeah, we
picture with that, right?
Yeah, man, we're gonna bust this out. Boom. All right,
man. I'll talk.
Blessed be.
All right, peace.